Despite political gains in Europe, protesters take to the streets over austerity measures in Spain, Italy, and Greece. I'm Winnie O'Kelly, reporting for Business Day Live. Later in the show, I'll be speaking to Peter Evis about a drop in U.S. corporate profits. And our media desk will take a look at a new wave of daytime talk show hosts. But first, I'm joined by Liz Alderman in Athens. Good morning, Liz.
Good morning, Winnie.
So tell us, what is it like on the streets? What is the public reaction to this last round of cuts?
Here on the streets in Greece, people are getting a little bit up in arms once again. After a summer in which things were fairly quiet, people have started taking to the streets once again in the last several weeks as this current government, led by Prime Minister Antonio Samaras, prepares to impose another nearly 12 billion euros worth of austerity cuts on the public. Next week here in Greece, we're expecting a nationwide general strike that's effectively going to shut down the country, basically as Greeks say, you know what, we can't take it anymore.
And what is the political reaction to this? Normally you would expect the politicians to try to back off a little bit.
Right now, Greece is really in a make or break situation. The government has had to contend with fears that Greece might exit the euro. This is something that was quelled over the summer. Those fears have been put back on the table once again. And what Mr. Samaras must do now is come forward with a 12 billion euro package worth of austerity cuts in order to satisfy Greece's international lenders, so that Greece can receive about 30 billion euros worth of aid sometime next month to basically keep the government running and to recapitalize the banks. All that being said, the people here are saying, you can't take this out of our hides once again. We're not going to stand for it anymore.
And what's really interesting, right, is it's not just in Greece. Throughout Europe, as the crisis is sort of like faded maybe from the headlines a little bit, there is starting to be a bigger and bigger backlash.
Absolutely. We saw yesterday in Spain and in Portugal, for instance, tens of thousands of people take to the streets once again. Again, both of these countries, particularly Spain, we had seen a period of calm. But now that Spain, actually one of the biggest countries in the Eurozone, is facing, like Greece, like Portugal, a debilitating economic downturn at a time when Spain's international lenders are pushing it also to consider whether to take itself a bailout that could also affect the government on top of a recent 100 billion euro bailout package that was just given to Spain's beleaguered banks. The people in Spain are once again very worried that austerity is going to hit them hard. And really, in the midst of an economic downturn, when governments across Southern Europe are trying to cut and trying to find savings on the backs of people, it'll be interesting to see whether the tensions flare up into serious civil unrest that could pose fresh challenges to all of these governments.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you, Winnie.
Returning to the U.S., where one of the few economic bright spots has been corporate earnings. But that may be about to change. Peter Evis is here to explain why.
Yes, what we're seeing, Winnie, is some weakness in corporate profits coming up. It's a dark cloud we should be keeping our eyes on, I think, because like you say, one of the things that kind of helped carry us through the recession was very robust earnings from a lot of large U.S. companies. And now it seems that that might be slowing down.
You know, it's been one of the frustrations to the public, though, let's be honest. Throughout this recovery, even as corporate profits rose, the hiring didn't really pick up steam. What can we anticipate now?
Well, that kind of highlights the paradox we have here. Is one of the reasons they had such good profits was they were shedding labor, which is a cost. And so now you come to what may be an inflection point where they're not even able to cut that much more, and their profits are still slowing down. So that bodes ill for continued employment growth, and that's something we should be concerned about.
Right, and it's coming from a broad range of companies, right?
Right. You're talking about big companies as well as small companies like FedEx, which warned recently about profits. Intel's another one, and in those two, you're seeing a lot of global slowdown affecting their earnings, and that's partly because of China, and China obviously is way beyond our control. So if that economy slows down, then we will see this trend continue, I think.
And what does it mean for the stock market, which has had, quite a robust phase
Well,
here?
very good question. I mean, people are extremely optimistic about stocks right now because of what the Fed has done recently, which is add a lot more stimulus, or has promised to add a lot more stimulus. But this will be a countervailing force. If earnings are weak, investors ultimately buy stocks on the basis of how much they think companies can earn. And if that doesn't signal optimism, they will sell stocks.
Thank you so much, Peter.
You're welcome.
Finally, when Oprah Winfrey quit network television, she left behind one of the most lucrative parts of the TV business. Now a new set of talk show stars wants to achieve Oprah's dominance. Bill Carter and Brian Stelter filed this report.
So,
Bill, it's September, which means all these new talk shows are premiering, as they do every fall. And the biggest one this year is Katie Couric, who looks a lot like the last queen of daytime TV, doesn't she?
well, that's what she wants to do, for sure. She wants to fill that slot, and she does have the background for it. She's, the most likely candidate, I think, that they've come up with to replace Oprah, because she can do, really serious stuff.
Yeah.
She can do really light stuff. She can do the showbiz stuff. And she comes with a built-in following and a certain amount of popularity. So she fits the profile perfectly.
And her ratings the first couple of days have been strong, right? Although that'd be expected, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting. She came out and she had a big number the first day, which, everyone wrote about, and I immediately thought, yeah, well, the first day on CBS Evening News, she had a really big number.
America's Girlfriend is back.
There's Ricky Lake as well.
Ricky Lake.
There's
Steve Harvey.
That's right.
Steve Harvey. And Jeff Probst, the host of
Survivor. Yeah.
All those shows came out at the same time. They joined, Anderson Cooper and Dr. Oz, Dr.
And
Phil,
Ellen, the biggest of them all still.
I think the real interesting thing will be how Anderson Cooper does versus Katie, because they're, to me, the two heavyweights.
And Anderson's live this year. I mean, the first year didn't go very well for him in daytime, so he came back, redid the show. Now it's live. His first guest was Kristen Chenoweth,
Right.
who made a little bit of news,
Right.
but I didn't see it get the kind of pickup the Katie show got.
No, not at all. And I think Anderson's problem is, he truly is working two jobs.
Right.
So, even though he's trying to do this show on a schedule, on a daily schedule, he has to bank shows, because what if he has to go to Japan for a tsunami?
This all matters, of course, because they can be millionaires with just a year on these shows.
The
right?
money on this on syndicated talk shows has always been the biggest money anybody can make in television, and that's why somebody maybe like, Steve Harvey wants to try it, because
Yeah.
you can, if it hits, it's a gold mine. I think Dr. Phil, has pretty much the highest rated show now. I think he makes like $80 million a year. $80 million a year. That's a salary that dwarfs, David Letterman or anybody who has a regular 5-night-a-week show. It's an incredible salary. So,
Right.
And Oprah, of course, made hundreds of millions because she was so successful and owned her show. So the gold mine is the successful talk show.
That's all for today. Please stay with us online at nytimes.com for our continuing coverage of this and other stories. I'm Winnie O'Kelly, reporting for Business Day Live. Thanks for watching.